Hello folks, we're going to be talking about Rome. This is part one. I'm going to deal with factual history books, first-person books, books that help you understand Rome as best I can. I'm going to start with the broader books first and get down to other items, other subjects, focus. What you want to remember is throughout it, I'm going to kind of tell you little hints and tips on learning the history of Rome so it becomes easier for you. Basically, the history of Rome really starts in 753 BC. This is probably the first book, one of the better books about that, where the city of Rome was founded. A lot of it is legend. It started out as a monarchy, and when the last king was killed by Brutus, you'll hear more about his family line later. The people obviously made a republic. Now the thing is, the kings did develop a lot of the institutions. They developed a census, which is actually people whose job was to collect information on all the citizens, the different levels, different families, because they had different capabilities. Not everybody could afford certain taxes. Not everybody could afford swords and weapons to join the army. And also, at this point, I want to point out the patronage client system, which is basically powerful people helped weaker people, and weaker people supported the powerful people. It's kind of like any other kind of system, a pyramid scheme, and it will come in a lot when you're reading about the history of Rome. Now, the Republic is where a lot of the expansion happened. This is a lot of the warfare, conquest, annexation of the European and Mediterranean area. So when you think about the Roman Empire, you think of conquest, but actually most of that happened during the Republic. And the Republic had a long history, a lot of politics, a lot of backstabbing, a lot of leaders. Okay? And what I want to get into, at least telling you about that, is that Caesar was not the first person to bring an army to Rome to invade Italy with an army. So when you get to reading about Caesar, please remember he's actually lived through a lot of this. He's taking ideas from other people. He's making it and putting them all together. Because a lot of senators who tried to pass laws, reform, that would get them popular with the populace. And the Senate would either block them legally or sometimes use violence. So the Senate itself would sometimes go outside the law. So when we get to Caesar and the Senate kills Caesar, he's not the first dictator to existed. He's not the first person the Senate has killed on the floor, but he would be the last one, the last nail in the Republic government, the last straw. Caesar is not the person who brought the fall of the Republic. It was already fallen down. His death, when his body hit the floor, so did the Republic. Okay? This one, I'm not sure how well this is going to show up. There it is really good. It is a English textbook that deals with the monarchy, the republic, and the first few Caesars who really developed the institutions of the republic into the empire. Very few changes were needed. They wanted, if it works, don't fix it. Don't play with it. The only problem with this is that it was made for English schoolboys in the mid 20th century, so there's a lot of Latin he doesn't even bother to explain because at that point they should know Latin. So you might find it difficult, but it does cover a lot and it goes really fast. Some years of political history in a few paragraphs. So we get to the empire, and that didn't happen. The republic died, the empire it came to existence. No, there's a lot of years in between as the people in charge, the descendants of Caesar, are trying to keep the republic going but stay in power. They don't want the Senate to think they've lost control. They don't want the people to think they lost control. They've just had a bunch of civil wars, which keep everything calm, stable, and they're saying, oh, we'll reward you with this, reward you with that title, this title. And after a while, these titles became automatic. Whoever became the next person in charge, the first man of Rome, ended up getting all these titles until by Nero, it is an empire. Now, we've been always fascinated by the fall of the Roman Empire. This is one of 3 volumes. And there seems to be a fascination, this need to pinpoint right exactly, here it is, oh, they're starting to fall. I don't think that's possible. People try. A lot of people try. Roman Empire, once again, So this focuses on 44 BC to 235 AD. So it overlaps a little bit. The fall of Roman Empire. This is probably the best one because most people say when the empire fell is really because the barbarians came in and culture changed. No, this guy actually points out violence, the lack of trade collapsed completely, health standards went down, cattle became smaller. He proves that this is the end of civilization until it has to be rebuilt. Now, the fall of Rome is actually the fall of the Western Empire. At a certain point near the end of the empire, one of the emperors decides, look, this is becoming too huge to control by one person, which split it up, not into two empires as much as two administrative regions. So you have, while two emperors, and then two emperors and two Caesars, and all sorts of other little schemes, it didn't work. They started infighting, and the problem is the East is the richest one. The West has all the problems. The East is next to civilized lands, who drink wine, who are used to paying taxes. So if you're an emperor or a general of the republic, you're going to get a lot more out of invading the East and trying to annex in the East, a lot of wealth for yourself personally, than let's say going north to where people drink beer, cook with butter, and have trees. So the West, which is also getting invaded by the barbarians, is not getting any of the money. It's a poor area. And the East, which has all this money, has deserts and areas to protect it, is going to last a lot longer, and it does last. When the fall of Rome happens, it's the fall of the Western Empire. The Byzantine Empire continues. Byzantine is the name of the city where it became the capital, which later became renamed by Constantine, Constantinople, and of course, in the mid 15th century, but around the 15th century, when it fell to the Muslims, it became Istanbul. Now, if you don't like to read all that, that's a lot of reading for you. There is a few things that you can just watch. Rome, Power and Glory, and Gladiators. This has 2 discs on the Rome and general history, and 1 disc on Gladiators. Gladiators? They both have extras, they both have timelines, they have a lot of talking heads. A lot of the people in this are the same authors whose books I've shown you or about to show you. Very, very good. Even for teachers, has a kind of a teaching guide. If you're really that lazy that you can't even watch something, you just want to listen to it, there's the history of ancient Rome. Okay, this is a lot. 7 CDs, 14 hours. But it goes from the founding all the way to the collapse of Rome. It doesn't get into the Byzantine Empire. Okay? Now, most of you really think, when you think of the Rome, you think of military history. So I'm going to go through the military books real fast. Okay? First one, Grand Strategy of the Roman Empire. Very, very important and very easy to read. I actually read this years ago before I got into anything else, and I was still able to understand it even without the historical background. Okay? Rome and the Enemies, how they actually treated foreign policy. It's also a very easy read, actually, and you don't really need to know, once again, a lot of the history. It's in there. Roman Warfare, and this guy right here is a talking head in a lot of History Channel programs, and it's very easy. Once again, he does everything. So he really gets from the Roman Republic to the Roman Empire. Battle Tactics of Rome. This is the early years. This is basically the very early years. Roman Republic. These always have good pictures, and if you're into reenactment or role-playing games, you can usually use these. They have information in the back. Roman legions. These are actually a lot of reenactors, many of them in Europe, many of them military. It seems that in Germany, for example, American and German troops would actually work together, and they'd learn discipline and how to work together. So, once you got in the basics, you could get into things like Hannibal. The Romans hated Hannibal. The Romans really were fearful of some great man coming up and attacking them and destroying Rome. That fear and the fear of the Gauls was probably something that affected them most of all. Caesar and Pompey the Magnificent. Clash of Titans. If you saw HBO's Rome, this is the one Magnificent's talking about when he's doing sticks in the dirt. Um, it's a very important battle. It's kind of hard for historians to figure out what actually happened because Caesar is outnumbered, yet Pompey's men ran. It's hard to explain whether it's morale or they weren't as good. This is the battle between Mark Antony and Brutus. And Brutus, as you know, if you once again you watched HBO's Rome, it's not 15 minutes long. It's a lot longer than that. But in the end, the greater general did win. Antony and Cleopatra, downfall. The funny thing is that it's Cleopatra's fault, really, being a woman and a queen. The Romans hating both monarchs and not trusting women in power. Mark Antony probably could have, if he hadn't associated himself with Cleopatra, he might have gotten out of the whole situation. Roman conquest of Italy. This is really more of an overview of basically from the monarchy to the late parts of the Republic. And it's actually a little harder. There's a lot of information in this small book, and it sometimes gets a little harder to read. Byzantine infantry, because the Roman Empire didn't fall there. It fell much later. Now, Caesar is a big one. So let me do a few books of Caesar. Okay, biography. Simple enough to understand that one. Rubicon. Remember, he's not the first one to cross it. He's not the first one to do anything. It does get into the background before him. It talks about some of the dictators before him, a lot of the events before him. So it's actually quite easy to read, even once again if you don't know Roman history. Now, if we're going to get into Caesar, okay, some of the first Caesars, a lot of them were sick physically, a lot of them were sick mentally. Okay, Michael Grant has a lot of books on a lot of books. He's very well known. When you think, this is one of the emperors, I can't pronounce the name, but think Fall of Rome, think Gladiator. These guys were blamed for the fall of Rome by almost anybody. I find that kind of hard to believe, to blame one family, one person for any historical event that's going to affect somebody hundreds of years, but there you go. And a nice little one, Scandalous History of the Roman Emperors. There's a lot of background in this. He has a chapter on eating and on ethics, so it's not just throwing them out there saying this guy's scandalous, this guy's scandalous, this guy's scandalous. He's doing relative links. You know, he's showing this emperor did this and this horrified the Senate, this emperor did this and this horrified the people. Now, one thing about Roman history is there's a lot of first-person information out there. You could go straight to the Roman history books. Sometimes they're actually cheaper. This is Caesar's Gallic War. You can actually find many copies, some in Latin. Emperor's Handbook, written by an emperor about how to rule, basically. And some scholarly works are very expensive, so sometimes you go to the first person because it's cheaper. Advice on how to farm manage, and also tells how to treat your slaves and stuff like that. Now, a little books to fill out everything. If you want to get into focus, you know, these are the folks who actually founded Rome. We only know them from their art and what the Romans said about them, or the bad things the Romans said about them. As you can see, they actually had women eating with them and they're happy. So they're a little different culturally, but they did invent gladiatorial games for religious funerals. Daily life, quite funny, translated from the French. A lot of the Latin's not translated, so it might be difficult for you. Ancient coinage. Roman coins were used for politics and propaganda. They had not kings, but Caesars, gods, wheat, everything that you could think of that would show, hey, look, we're going to feed you, we're going to help you. Romans, corn supply of ancient Rome, very important. You'd be amazed how much history and politics are involved in this. And the institutions from the Republic to the Empire barely changed. Which is one of the things I'm saying, a lot of the stuff doesn't change. The history is not that hard to understand. Slavery and society in Rome, once again, very important.